There is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You'll hear stories about this and so much more right here on Supernatural Confrontations. Lots of people email us. Lots of people have seen orbs. That's the subject of today's story. While it's not nearly as dramatic as some of the other stories that we have had on the show, the bottom line is this: orbs are real. They appear, they disappear, they do things. We'll get into that and so much more, but first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Low levels of collagen show up in more ways than one. Although saggy skin and wrinkles are the most common that come to mind, did you know that your nails, hair, and joints can also be signs of low collagen levels as well? One of the quickest ways to help combat low levels of collagen is to supplement with a high-quality collagen supplement. And there may not be a better choice than going to healthwithla.com. Healthwithla.com, which uses 5 critically important types of collagen to help provide your skin, hair, nails, and joints the nutrients you need. Look the best this coming spring-summer session for 51% off, plus receive several free bonuses, including VIP health coaching for life, before their half-off sale ends by going to www.healthwithla.com. That's www.healthwithla.com, or simply click more at the bottom of this video in the description box and the link in the description. The best part is you have over 60 days to change your mind if you aren't fully satisfied. Folks, order now and thank me later. I drink it every day and I am glad I do. I have noticed a difference. So here's the testimony. I'll weigh in at the end like I always do. Res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself. So Dan, thanks so much for joining us on Supernatural Confrontations, and thanks for being bold and adventurous and daring enough to come on the record. So something happened to you. You had an encounter. Tell us what it was, please.
Yeah, our dad was, they gave him 5 months left to live there. He had a weak heart. So my brother, sister, and I were taking turns taking care of him 24/7 at our homestead. And just before I retired, and one of the hobbies I wanted to do is just check into possibly doing some coyote hunting. So I had some night vision, infrared, as well as a thermal that I purchased about 5-6 months before I actually captured a couple of video clips of the orb. And so what I wanted to do is periodically I would go and test my lights and all, because one of the things is there's cheap IR illuminators, whatever, when you put them with your scope and all, and I was trying to get the best out of them. But one of the nights there that I was taking care of Dad, I actually I put him to bed and all, and so I would take up a lot of my stuff in case I had the opportunity to do something outside to test the equipment. And it was at the end of June. I know on the videos it says May, but the firmware updates wasn't really correct in the dates, at least. But so when I went out at the edge of the yard and I just took one of the fields to just kind of scan around and just kind of spotting, just doing some spotting, checking for clarity, distance of the scope. And that was the infrared scope I was using at the time. And I also had the thermal there with me. And I'm just kind of panning across the field there, and I saw an object look like an ellipse. And normally you see bugs going through there in the summer, and if you're not focused on that with your scope, they kind of like look like almost like an orb, or they kind of flare out, whatever. But they move like a bug. But this was different because it was much, much larger. And on top of that, it's an ellipse. And when I say ellipse, because it was like basically almost 2-dimensional. And it was the movement was bobbling. Basically, all I could say is kind of linear, up and down. It would go across, right. It was really fast. And I took 2 clips, video clips of it there, because I could record with the scope and all. And it did finally cross my mind, it could be an orb, because what else could it been of sorts? So when I recorded it, I thought, well, I'm going to check with my thermal, because the thermal would detect heat and see if there's any kind of heat that was generating. And I couldn't see anything through the thermal. And naturally, I couldn't see just through the naked eye. I caught it just with through the infrared. And so at that time, I thought, a lot of times people will say something about the equipment, maybe that it's maybe something faulty, or maybe there's a glare in your lens or whatever. But that night, it was a clear night, but there was no moon. And so I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just move to another location. It's about 25, 30 yards away from that particular recording, see if I could spot it again. And the second time, I did see it, and it was much lower, but it was into one of our, there's a couple of maple trees in one of our fields. It was up in it, but it was just above. And in my email, I said something about being semi-transparent, but I really believe what it was is it went into the branches. You could see some of the leaves in front of it and then some of the leaves behind it. So I think it was still solid looking like the first video clip. And what was interesting is it still did the same movement. The ellipse did not change its size, or obviously its shape, and that bobbing back and forth. And so that's basically, I recorded that as well. And I couldn't see it through the thermal again, as well as the naked eye. And but the things that was crossing my mind was, is it good or evil, or is it God, or is it something else? And the thing that crossed my mind was hiding. And God, it just doesn't, God wouldn't do that. It seemed odd. And a lot of times, if I've gone onto YouTube, I'd see like these little, like a lot of times orbs being like a ball or something like that, and they might be congregating together. And this was different, so it kind of threw me off because of that ellipse shape. And at the time, I thought it was like 8, 9 feet across on the major diameter on the larger side. But I didn't. The next morning, I went out to that location where it went up in the tree, because I could get the measurement of the tree there. It was about 3.5, 4 feet. So it was definitely much larger than a bug, So, or even a swarm of bees. I mean, they wouldn't be out in the night anyway.
No way.
But how they congregate, yeah, and their shape is just going all over the place and all. And but this was just a same elliptical look. But I say two-dimensional because it had a flat look to it. And you'll see, like, because the infrared was a rifle scope, and you can see the crosshairs and my movement, because I didn't have it on a tripod, because it was very, it can get really heavy with all the other stuff you put on it for the night vision. And you can see where I was trying to keep it steady with the crosshairs on the scope, but the orb or whatever was definitely moving inconsistently to that type of movement. You'll notice that it was just very, like, it was going like this and doing its thing. The height of it, when it got up to the highest part that I could see, it was up, way up on top of some of these spruce trees that at the fence line of our property there. But in the maple tree there, that's when I noticed there that it was it was, like I said, it was solid ellipse, but that was two different locations. It kept its same contour and all. So, but that's kind of my experience with it. But I did pray, and just in Jesus' name, rebuked it, and it was still doing its little bobble and everything. And the feeling I got is just don't entertain it. Just don't entertain it.
Right.
And because what am I going to do? I'm going to walk out there. I can't see it with the naked eye. I'm going to have a scope in my eyeball. I'm falling a woodchuck hole or something out in the field. So I just went in the house, checked it out, sent it to my wife, and talked to my dad in the morning, because it was the beginning of his time there. They gave him 5 months to live, and so it was in the early stages there. And so I asked him, I said, Dad, look what I got here. And he said, what is it? I said, I think it's an orb. And he says, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, it's probably not anything good. At least I could see that, because I didn't feel anything of God about it. I didn't feel afraid. Part of, some of it because who God is within me. But I think the thing is, I said in my email, it was about 160 yards or less, but I didn't go back and measure it again with my rangefinder. It's about 170 yards. It was far enough away. I didn't have that much of a concern anyway. But the thing is I'd never seen anything out there before. I grew up out there since 1967, and never seen anything after that, after we prayed. So the funny part about it is seeing it at that moment. There's multiple fields out there, and that's the first time we ever seen anything like that. So, but that was my experience. I checked with neighbors. I've never heard, They never see anything out there of any out of the ordinary, and we never had a strange feeling on our property now because my parents were Christians. My mom passed away in October, or excuse me, in 2019, and my dad did pass away that on 2021, that November 4th and all. So we still have the property. We're still out. Yeah, we're still out there and all, but never. I mean, I've been out there before and after with even with the infrared, never seen anything. So it's just that one time. So it was a little unusual.
Let me ask you some questions. When it came into the rangefinder, were you kind of scoping like this and then you saw it, or did it fly into where you were? How did
Yeah, on the infrared, I ran into it. I was just scoping out in the field because a lot of times we have deer out there. And if there's deer, there's no coyotes. It's one or the other. And I was just kind of panning across the field, and I ran into it as I was panning. And what I did is I had the scope. It was the rifle one. I just had my elbow down on my knee, and I was just moving. I ran into it is basically what I did. I just snagged onto it.
what color
It
was
didn't
it?
come into my.
I'm assuming it was like a white, opaque white or something.
Yeah, because my infrared, it's black and white, so it'd be like a trail cam.
Yeah.
And so that was white. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And so yeah, it was
in shape at all, or was it constantly the elliptic shape?
constantly, yeah, same in both videos clips, same contour, the
Did
shape
you
of it.
ever
Yeah.
watch it leave the scene?
I didn't, no. And that's what I was saying there. After I prayed and all, it still it still kind of did its bobbling. I just got the feeling there that don't entertain it. And I don't know why, but I got that multiple times. And like I said, I didn't feel afraid or whatever. And I don't know why, but other than I don't know if why I didn't get to see the thing just disappear or take off. I don't know. But so, and I never seen it again though.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for the story. I mean,
Yeah.
why it's not this big sensationalistic thing, what it does show us is that
hmm
things are around us. And, I mean, we know that in Ephesians 6, we do not fight against,
hmm
flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. So you saw something, you had an encounter with something. I'm leaning towards a demonic spirit. That's what I would lean towards.
Yeah.
But
Right.
that's conjecture on my part. But
Mhm.
thanks so much for coming on the record. I'll give you the last word.
All right. Yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to show you the clips and all too, because one of the things that like you're talking about, whether it's demonic or not, and those are the things that were crossing our mind. And especially when Dad passed, about ready to pass away, you begin to wonder what's going on, after he leaves. And and that's something there that we prayed about. And but I do appreciate you spending the time and all. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the record. It's really appreciated. So I kind of already weighed in at the end of it, talking about orbs and everything. But the bottom line is this: the supernatural. If you see something like that, there's nothing in your grid system, unless you've seen a bunch of orbs before, to prepare you for an encounter like that. So he's just sitting there, looking at this thing, and he films it, and he's like scratching his head, like, why? What is this? Why is it happening? And we hear reports of this. Orbs in people's houses, orbs in fields, orbs follow people's cars. It's all over the map. In fact, in our very first film on UFOs, this huge orb, like the sun, comes, it's like way, way in the distance. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. These people were driving across Kansas. And all of a sudden, this orb, this orange ball, comes right up next to the car and paces the car for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, then shoots away. It's an incredible story. We're not sure what these are. No one really knows. Are they like probes, scout ships type of thing? Whatever they are, they move, of course, with impunity over our landscape. They appear, they disappear. We get a lot of them on game show cameras, on security cameras, where the security cameras just showing it like this. All of a sudden, this orb just comes right in, hovers, and then moves away. So what are these things? The bottom line is this. I believe there's a supernatural component to it. I believe that this is the fingerprints of a supernatural, and that's why Dan was on the show. Folks, the Orlando conference is completely sold out, but live streaming is available, which means that you can sit in the comfort of your living room and watch all these incredible speakers. It starts on the 5th. I will be speaking, I believe, on Thursday night. Hope to see you there. Thursday night and then Sunday morning. So what can I tell you? But I will be there, and I'll be speaking about UFOs, of course, the crop circles, alien abductions, and then from On the Trail of a Nephilim, out of place artifacts. I hope to see you there. I'll be down at my table most of the time. I love meeting the crowd, hanging out, meeting you folks, and greeting new faces and laughing when I see some old faces, because it's always good and it just brings my heart joy. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of On the Trail of a Nephilim. I think you'll find this one extremely interesting. I did a sit down with Dennis Stone from America's Stonehenge. And what he discovered is incredible. And what he shares with us is absolutely mind-boggling. We'll see you tomorrow. Folks, remember, the supernatural world is real. Actually, wait a second. Before I go, 2 things. I forgot to pray. Please forgive me. I want you guys to start lifting up a man by the name of Ron. He needs a lung transplant. Because he has not taken the vaccine, he's ineligible for a lung transplant. We need a miracle here. We need a miracle. So I just cover your prayers. We ask that you pray for Ron's healing, that the Lord would show up and do something miraculous, that the lung capacity would go from what it is now to 20%, to 30%, to 50%, to 70, 80, 90%, to 100%. We serve the God of miracles. And so I ask that you would pray for Ron, that his lungs would fill with air and he would be healed. So let me pray over you. Thank you for watching. I just pray the Lord's protection over you, that his hand would be about you, that a shield would be placed about you, your family, your home, that no foul and unclean thing would enter your domicile, that you would look at what we do here on Supernatural Confrontations and all the other shows and realize it's the deep end of the pool. We're looking at the fingerprints of the dragon. Our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and to herald the return of the King, Jesus. With that in mind, I just pray a blessing over you, over your family, over your house, your domicile, the work of your hands, and ask that the Lord would give you supernatural bubble wrap to protect you and also me and our family and everyone that works here from the wiles of the enemy. Father, we love you, we thank you, we long to see your coming, your return, and we believe it might be soon. In the meantime, Lord, hand is on the plow. That's why we do 5 shows a week. Thanks so much for watching Supernatural Confrontations. We'll see you back tomorrow. Remember, there is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. Thanks for watching.
He was wounded for our sins and bruised for our iniquity. heart is torn inside. I tremble in my soul. My mind is dark and full of fear. Hope is gone.